Welcome back to the Electric Vibe podcast. I'm your co-host, Kurt Hoffman, and to my left is none other than
J. David Silva, the Electric Man.
Jay. Who do we have today?
Kurt, our guest, Tonya Giddens, has always been a lover of fashion and music. A former Plus model, born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, Tonya has appeared in numerous fashion shows, and she was also the beauty director of Full Figured Fashion Week, the groundbreaking and highly successful fashion event dedicated to showcasing the visibility of plus-size women. Tonya is a lifelong Prince aficionado too, and Tonya created the Purple Paisley Brunch, which was created to celebrate the music and legacy of Prince, the artists he's influenced, and the overall Minneapolis sound. Also, in February of 2021, Tonya launched an online music show titled Boogie Nights, which showcased the best of classic dance and R&B music. Now, in
Mm.
addition to those projects, Tonya is also the president of her local college alumni chapter, Norfolk State University, as well as a member of Black Women in Media, which is an organization that's dedicated to the greater representation and opportunities for women of color in media. They're challenging stereotypes and driving transformative change within the industry. Tanya's motto is, "You can never be overdressed or overeducated." And we're happy to welcome to the Electric Vibe, Tonya Giddens.
Excellent. I'm
There we go.
recording now.
All right, let's do it again whenever you're ready.
Tonya, how are you doing today?
Today I am well. I had it's the last maybe 2 or 3 months have been quite challenging to say the least, but you know what? I'm here by God's grace. That's the best I can tell you. I'm here and I am good. Hungry, yes, as always, because I like to eat, but I'm good.
We're happy to have you.
Thank you for having me. I was telling my business partner, shout out to Jill Monroe, that I said that you guys wanted little old me on your podcast. And
Please.
it's I was really quite flattered. I was really quite flattered. So thank you both.
Absolutely, our pleasure. And one of the things I wanted to point out, Tanya, is that, and this has happened a number of times, so I'll talk about like the positive power of social media, because that's how we met. As much as
Yes.
Kurt and I met, we hadn't met in person until we came out to a couple of shows, and we'll talk about that this
Mhm.
evening as well. But we met through social media. We met through Facebook, again through
Absolutely.
associations with artists and the association with Prince. And so I'm always quick to point out the importance of forming relationships and building relationships with people through social media, because again, that's how we came to know each other.
Yes, and it's important for people to understand that social media can be used for good as well as not so good. And you have to filter out the foolishness in order to cultivate relationships with people that you feel are actually genuine. And I have to go on record by saying, Brother Silva, you are one of the most genuine men I have ever met.
Thank
And
you.
that's a good thing. That's a good thing. And Kurt, you all right. You
He'll
all
do
right.
ditto.
So Kurt is a hoot. He's a hoot. So, it's a blessing when you meet someone. Actually, that's how I met my business partner, through social media, and we could talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, it's a good tool for people to connect. It's when people start doing things that I call them chair thugs, internet thugs that want to troll. Then it becomes a place where people start becoming disillusioned with the idea of being on social media. So, I try to
Right.
stay on the positive side until
Yes,
someone
you
tells
do. I was going to say, Tonya, my association with you and knowing who you are was when I went and traveled to Minneapolis in 2022. I drove. And
wow.
yeah, and you were the MC for Nothing Compares to P.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I was like, who is this guy? I was like, who is this person? Why do I want to know them right away? You just had
Wow.
this effervescent way of hosting the proceedings, and you've hosted many different Prince related things, including your own Paisley Brunch, but you've
Yes.
done things for D'Angela Duff, for her symposia, for Polished Solid. I mean, you've become the, I don't want to say it girl, but you become the person to host these different things. How did that come about?
Well, let me backtrack. I'm gonna do. I don't know how well you all are of a certain age. I was gonna go into my George Jefferson. I was born the son of a sharecropper in a cotton field in Alabama. But growing up, I was actually very shy. I was very shy, but I always loved music. Music will always be my first love. And as I continued to grow and develop, I love radio. And back in the day, the radio, we had 92 KTU with Al Bandero, Paco, Carlos de Jesus, Carol Ford, Lamar Renee. We had all of these personalities, and we had WBLS with the Chief Rocker, Frankie Crocker, Ken Spider Webb, Vaughn Harper, Diana King. We had all these people, and it just became something that I really wanted to do. I used to have a radio, the old, not pocket radios, but they were maybe about this as old folks say, this big around, and you had to put the cassette tape in there and you press record. I used to record articles I'd read from Right On Magazine in order to kind of get myself acclimated to being in radio. And it kind of developed from there. I didn't break out of the shyness maybe until freshman in college, when I majored in radio TV production. And still, I was still that kind of timid person until, I don't know what happened. One day I was just this thing, and it just kind of continued on. As far as the hosting, I'm the type of person, you know how Beyonce has Sasha Fierce. I tend to come out of my shell once I start hosting. And I love doing it because it shows another side of me. So it's just many facets of who I am,
Wow. Tonya, you mentioned obviously, radio, TV production. Can you talk about the evolution? So, you probably came to that at an earlier age and then got into college, and then how you practically applied it from there and how long it took you, what maybe some of the challenges were as you were, coming into your own.
Well, the challenge first of all, let me start off by saying terrestrial radio as a whole has definitely changed, and I'm using that term loosely. The radio stations have basically become one and the same. Here in New York City, we don't really have, with the exception of one R&B station, which is still WBLS, we don't have a R&B station per se. We have the Hot 97s, the 105.1s, but they play hip hop. This new station, 94.7 The Block, they do old school R&B and hip hop, but it still has that hip hop element. And to be honest with you, I didn't really become a hip hop person, and I'm still not until freshman in college. And it was, I listened to certain rap songs, but it just never did anything for me. I was that type, of course, the Michael Jackson, the Madonna, of course, Uncle Prince. He's my uncle in my head. That's why I call him Uncle Prince. And a lot of R&B, even pop, Fleetwood Mac. I love Fleetwood Mac, Steely Dan, all the one-hit wonders of the 80s. That was my thing. That's still my thing. But radio stations don't really do that. You have to go to, say, a Sirius or a Pandora in order to listen to kind of what you want to listen to. And I love yacht rock. I'm a yacht rock person all day. I love yacht rock. So radio as a whole has changed, but there in certain areas, there are still good options. I hope that answered your question, because I started thinking about your question and how radio definitely has evolved. And at the end of the day, it comes down really to dollars and cents. If they're not getting the advertising dollars to make the radio stations continue, then it's not gonna happen. Just last week in the news here, this radio station was an AM station, all news all the time, 880 CBS AM. Now they're taken off the air. And who's replacing them? ESPN. Now, mind you, WRKS, which was 98.7 KISS FM, they went off the air a few years ago. Who took over? ESPN. So it's really becoming a place of, if it doesn't make dollars, it's not making sense.
Right, right.
And it's really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate because I can remember the days of having my little cassette tape, putting it next to the radio. Time for Men Without Hats. Let me play it. Boop. And listening and making my own little mixtapes. And you obviously you don't do that anymore, but it's still unfortunate that terrestrial radio has gone probably, and it will probably continue to go the way of the pet rock.
Oh.
Yeah.
Say it ain't so.
I know. Say it isn't so. Oh, sorry.
Absolutely. Go ahead. That listen. It's okay. Hall & Oates is perfectly fine here.
Yes.
But it's true. I mean, I think about boys and girls at a certain age today listening to radio, and it's like tap water to them. The ability to stream content. I don't know that there's any particular place or thing, but they're heavily influenced by a whole different host of other things that lead them to this music.
Yes, absolutely. And I hate to sound like an old fogey, but the music is not the same.
No.
And the culture as a whole is not the same. The culture is always evolving. But the music has not, unfortunately, to a place where people will say, oh, that's a really good song. I mean, we have stuff like my blank is pink, my blank hole is brown. Like, really? Who does that?
Right,
Obviously, they're making money, and I don't know if you're familiar with that song, but
That's
really?
what it's come to.
Yeah. It's unfortunate that music has the radio stations as a whole are slowly becoming more and more obsolete. Terrestrial radio, that is. Yeah. But in the streaming services, another issue is that they're not paying the artists.
Right.
Yeah.
They're not paying them. So you can go on Pandora and listen to the Stylistics station, which is one of my favorites. And they'll play the Stylistics or the Wind and Fire, but how much are they really getting paid from that?
Right. And that's actually been a concern of mine because, I've posted a lot of things and we're kind of the same, cut from the same cloth, real music, real musicians, and obviously supporting the craft. And I would often post a lot of times that, we support, look, I'm still buying CDs because if the lion's share of the profits and the proceeds are going to go to the artist, then that's how I'm going to support. But on the other hand, streaming is the way to go. I think I read a statistic, and it might have even been Snoop Dogg who had said, he can sell 3 billion streams and make $3,000.
That is absurd.
I mean, it really is. It's almost, it's criminal, actually.
Yeah. And so I understand why a lot of these musicians are still touring well into their 70s and 80s. God bless Eddie Levert. They have to wheel him out on the stage in order for him to still sing. And he's and I'm being funny, but I'm not being funny. He's 120. Why is this man still out here trying to besides the love of it, which should be number one, but in order to get a check, because you made songs 50, 60 years ago and you're only getting what, a 39-cent check?
Right.
That's ridiculous. So I understand why all these musicians are out here still touring. I just saw Johnny Mathis 2 years ago, voice just pristine as ever. As ever. I go see George Clinton every time he comes here. So yeah, I don't mind supporting the artists, but there should be something in place for them to get what they deserve.
Sure. Tonya, can you talk a little bit, about the support of artists and kind of that change from, the way radio and support for artists used to be, and how that affected you when you started getting into promotion and promoting different artists?
Well, I think it really changed with the advent of social media because it gave the artist an opportunity to really meet their fans, you know. Case in point, Dionne Warwick. If you're on her Twitter, you know Dionne is straight Brick City, Newark. She takes no shorts, and I live for that. And, you know, she interacts. She's 80, 82, 83. She's still interacting unless that's her, you know, she has someone doing it for her. But social media with celebrities and musicians in general, it has kind of helped. It's helped them to gain a more broader audience. And Dionne Warwick is a great example of that, because the youngins call her Auntie Dionne.
Yep.
You know, same thing as I said with George Clinton, Uncle George. I said he's another uncle in my head. He's, you know, he's on social media and he engages sometimes. You know, it's funny, back in the day when we were kids, we get excited, we just get an autograph, like say from LaToya Jackson or somebody. Now I'm on LaToya's Instagram page and she's liking what I'm saying, or she responds. So it's just, again, it's an evolution of everything. And that's basically how I met some of the musicians, some of the people in the industry, through social media. You know, case in point, Stoney Jackson.
Mhm.
I met him on social media, and I just on a lark, when we did the event in Los Angeles for the 40th anniversary of Purple Rain, I said to him, look, I said, if you're in LA, because he was at the premiere, I said, that's a great opportunity for you to come out and just hang out and stuff. And he said, okay. He said, I'll be there. And he showed up.
Sure.
And, you know, I was like, oh, snap. You know, that's the 13-year-old coming out of me like, wow.
Sure.
Young kids will be like, who the hell is that? But
when you sent me the picture, and I literally said to you, I said, is that Stoney?
Yeah.
Because I knew.
Yeah. And same thing with other celebrities who I'm not going to name, but you know, you talk to them in the DMs or what have you. But sometimes it doesn't quite work. I had a celebrity, a musician, during the days of MySpace. And we communicated that way. And we became really cool. They performed here at the time when BB King's was still open. And I got sick and I didn't go, but she called for me. Oh, I just said who, she called for me to come on stage. But like I said, I was ill. And then about a month later, someone that she knew, she just did not like, couldn't stand, sent me a friend request. And I was like, oh, okay, that's cute. So I accepted it. After that, they blocked me. They blocked me. And I said, wow, okay, that's cool. But again, that's always the flip side, two sides to every coin.
Sure.
But I also think, you know, in regards to the promotion aspect, it can be, if you're honest and you're genuine about what you want, if you're just saying, oh my God, I'm a fan, I'm a fan, I'm a fan. Stop being a fanboy and fangirl. And if you really want them to attend something or participate, say, you know, I'm having such and such, I'm having high tea with, and I'm just throwing a name out, with Susanna Melvoin. And I would love for you to come as a guest. Then that's more genuine and more honest than, oh my gosh, I can't wait to see what movie you're in. And, you know, I'm doing things and I really would love to have you there. It comes off as a little needy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think you have to kind of bridge the two, you know, bridge being a fanboy, fangirl, and bridge handling business. You know, and anybody who knows me knows I like to handle business first. Internally, I'm like, ah! But
Sure.
but you know, on the outside, I'm like, sure, let's work this out, and you know, we can get it done. Case in point, I've had musicians come to my house for dinner, and they're sitting at my table and they're talking and they're sharing things that my brain is like exploding every time they're revealing something. Like, oh my God, I can't believe they're saying this. I can't believe they're saying this. But internally, I'm like, I can't believe they're sitting here. Oh my God, I never thought this would happen. But you realize at the end of the day that they're people. They put their drawers on one leg at a time like everybody else. So, you just have to kind of realize what the purpose is at the end of the day.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Excellent. I was thinking earlier to your comment about Dionne Warwick, because I know she credits her son social media wise getting on there and helping her out with accounts and stuff like that. I think she was
Right.
on. I think it was a Colbert. I think she was on Stephen Colbert talking about that.
Oh
So
boy, Auntie John.
but
Ha!
you know, he's keeping her. And he's had her guest on a couple of tracks of his own because he's a musician as well.
Yes, yes, because he was the one that I think that's Damon
Yes.
Elliott. He's the one that wrote with Luther, and he did Here and Now
Mhm.
actually with Luther. So yeah, it's good to have people around you who are not necessarily younger than you, but
Hmm.
stay in the loop of things so you can continue to stay in the loop. I don't know if I quite reached that part yet. I'm not anybody's auntie yet. I hope I have another 10 or 15 years before that happens.
Coming, right?
But it's always good to have people around you who know different things about you. Because if you're around the same people all the time, what are you learning?
Mhm.
Nothing.
Absolutely.
It's like a cat chasing its tail.
Right. Right. You're not going anywhere, right?
Right. Exactly.
Tanya, and want to talk about a number of things, but I've been to some shows, obviously, that you promoted and that you've staged and put on. Can you take us through I mean, because when we get there, everything looks, I mean, it's put together well. You're very gracious. You're working the room. What are some of the challenges? I mean, because you make it look easy,
Honey,
but
let me
I'm sure
pull
there's
out
some
the water. Let me
challenges that
take a
happen,
sip. Ooh, let me take a sip. Mm,
Maybe two sips.
right?
maybe three. Well, um, whew. The challenges are basically first and foremost in
Mhm.
Mm,
finding a venue, and then raising the capital to make sure that everyone is taken care of. Um, it's important that Jerome Benton, who is a very good friend of mine, has always stressed the importance of knowing one's worth. And I do not like to undercut anyone when it comes to money. I try to make sure if I can't give them what they want, I will give them something else in order to offset, the financial aspect of it. Um, the when you're working with different artists, you also have to have a moderate temperament because not all artists are the same.
mm-mm.
You can have an artist who is just so demanding. Not naming any names. I had an artist that I was working with and this was during the pandemic, and they were not necessarily the nicest, and they seem to be very pushy, but sometimes you have to dig way down in your soul in order to make things happen. Then if you choose not to deal with them anymore, that's fine too. But you will never know whether or not I dislike you
Mhm.
because what goes around comes around. I'm a Capricorn,
Mm,
and from what I've been told, we're the sign of the karma. So, if I treat you like dirt, I know something's going to come around where I'm going to either get treated like dirt, or I'm not going to get exactly what it is that I need or what I'm asking for. So I try to treat people with respect. I think that's really respect is key. Respect is key. Um, Event venues, now that is a totally different beast.
mm,
Every event space is different.
mm,
And a lot of the managers, and I've come across this, don't necessarily like the fact that I'm a woman of color.
mm,
Don't like the fact that I'm a woman, first of all,
mm,
and then to be a woman of color.
mm,
That's something on top of that. And it's very unfortunate in this day and age that you know, people, including myself, have to deal with that.
mm.
There was a few years back, I had almost an altercation with someone at a venue, and I had to really, really pull myself I had to really be another person. And that's the thing. When you're doing an event, you can't let anyone see you sweat. Even if stuff is jacked up in the back, say instruments aren't tuned properly and they're playing, the audience doesn't need to know that, you know, and more times than not, even at the events that you guys have attended with me, you guys like, oh, this is the best event. This was great, but you had no idea all the foolishness and phenomena that was going on backstage. And to me, that's the sign of a good show.
Sure. And that's kind of what I was alluding to, because I can recall being at the Jelly Bean show, you know, and it was wonderful and everything, you know, they were playing the hits and Law was there and everything just came off smoothly. We had seen you outside the venue, you were greeting everybody, and it just looks effortless. But I know there's a lot that goes into being able to pull that off.
Oh,
As
yes.
Mhm.
Oh, yes. But for me, because I know Uncle Bean and I know Eddie and I know Law,
Mhm.
it kind of, it's a lot more seamless as opposed to someone that I don't know, you know. I remember when I did during the pandemic, we had virtual events, and I'll say their name. It was we did an event with Tony M, Damon Dixon, Michael Bland,
Mm.
and maybe one day I'll release those. I'll release those clips. And you know, before the show, I never met Tony in person, but I really wanted to do this because my thing is, and we could talk about it a little bit later, or we can piggyback on it now. My thing was always that I want to be able to curate these stories from these people who we don't really know about, who were an integral part of Uncle Prince's legacy, you know, and they tend to say, oh, they're just dancers, they're this, that, and the third, but they played a part. They
Mhm.
played a major part.
Important
And
part, right?
so I had, like I said, I had not met Tony before, and I called him. I got his number. I called him. I said, look, I really want you to be a part of this. I said, because your stories needs to be told. And he was like, oh, wow. He said, okay, that sounds good. And you know, we worked out the details and so on and so forth. And then I have a tendency to get a little bit too comfortable. And I said, you know, and we can talk about it later. I said, I get tired of people whitewashing his legacy. I said, because he was a black man before anybody else. More than anything, he was a black man. But I didn't say that. I didn't say he was a black man. I said, he's just a black man like everybody else. But you kind of guess what I said. And then I was like, oh, and he got really quiet. And I
Mm.
said, oh, shoot, I done blew this. And then he said, you know what? You're absolutely right. He said, I would love to do it. And I was like, oh, thank you, Jesus. Because I thought I had just like blown it. So it's kind of important to me to cultivate a relationship with these people. I don't have to sit up in their house and you know, have tea and crumpets or anything, but the fact that I'm coming from a business standpoint and you know that I'm coming from a business standpoint is very important. Now, if Tony wants to come and Damon wants to come to New York for a show that I might be doing next year, then yay, hey, let's make it happen, Gavin. Putting it
That's
in the universe. You got to speak
right.
it into
Right.
existence.
Speak it into existence, right?
Yep,
So it manifests.
that's right.
I
Got
get
to,
that.
got to.
But that grit and determination has taken you many different places, Tonya, and
But
that's what intrigues us about you most of all is that you've put yourself out there. So, what was the impetus? What was your first major get, if you will?
okay, picture it. New York City, 2000, maybe 2001. I went to see The Time at BB King's.
Oh,
And I had just broken up with this clown. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to sit at home and feel sorry for myself. I'm going to this show. So I got dressed back in when I could get on the train without any incidents.
Mhm.
Took the train to BB King's, um, went and
Mhm.
sat at my table, watched the show.
Mhm.
After the show was over, I was with someone who I just met. Shout out to Renee. I said, you know what? I'm gonna go backstage. Let me see if I can. I just want to take pictures because I was still in that mindset. I just broken up with this guy. Oh, this is whatever, whatever. I said, let me just go and see if I can get some pictures of the bands. I can go home. No harm, no foul. So I went to, I don't know if you've ever been to BB King's, but
I have.
okay. So you know where they have the curtain
Yeah.
kind of blocks the dressing rooms and the outside. So I went to the curtain, and at this time, it was actually Jesse Morris's brother, security, who's also his security. I said, I said, hi, I would like to, is it okay to come backstage? I said, I just want to take a couple of pictures and then, I'll be on my way. I don't want to do anything else. Well, honey, he must have liked what he saw because he looked me up and down. He said, come on back. I was like, oh, okay.
I'm in.
That's, like, mama, we made it. So I'm standing backstage with my friend and we're just, milling around, milling around. So I'm going to take pictures. So the first person I met was Monty Moore, the legend.
Uh,
And we took pictures and then I told him, and I'm just telling the story to just kind of lead up.
mhm.
I said, Monty, I'm just telling you now, I'm going to post this picture. This is the best sex I've never had. And and he laughed. He's like, okay, let's do it. So we took a picture, came out of the dressing room, and Tori was there, and then Bean came out. And I said, do you mind taking a picture with me? And he's like, sure. And as I'm talking to him, Jerome comes out of Morris's dressing room. And I just happened to turn around and he looked at me. He said, hi. I said, hi. I said, can I take a picture with you? And he's like, sure. And Bean took that picture.
Mhm.
And then Jerome
Oh,
took a picture of Bean and myself. And we just started chatting. And Jerome, Jerome is such a giving person. He said, you know what? You ain't going home. You coming to the next show. I said, okay. And again, I'm just like, not even thinking. I'm like, okay,
sure.
cool. I'll go to the next show. And I had a good time. And then after I took the picture, I said, look, I said, I don't know who your representative is. Cause that's my thing. I don't want to intrude and say, you got a phone number or whatever.
Yeah.
I said, you have a manager or whatever. I can email the pictures to them. And he said, no. He said, here, take my number. You can send them to me. I said, oh, all right, fine. And that's how we became friends. That's how we became friends. So I guess it's always, you in being in the right place at the right time, meeting people that causes you to, it just launched something that was not, that I did not expect.
Mhm.
Okay.
And we became friends after that. And then when Uncle Prince died, and they had, I think it was a couple of years later, no, it was a couple of months later, there was an event in LA that the Academy did for Purple Rain.
Mhm.
And I went out there and that's when he kind of said, you know what? I want you to be on my team. Whatever is needed, I want you to be on my team. And then that's how he introduced me to Jill. He said, you two
Huh.
would be great together. And I met Jill through social media because Jerome was like, y'all work that out on social media. And that's how I met Jill. And so that's when everything started to come together. And that is basically how the Purple Paisley Brunch came to fruition. It came to fruition because right after that was in 2017, I said, you know what? Let's do a birthday party for Jerome here in New York. I said, it hasn't been done. And Jill said, okay, let's do it. And so we did a spot in Lower East Side, a small, intimate spot. People came. And I got to tell you, I was a wreck because I just didn't think everything was coming together. And kudos to my friend Ron Worthy at the party. He said, "Hey T, this is bomb." And I'm so silly. I'm like, "It is?" Because I really thought, again, this is a case of not knowing that this is actually a good thing, because people don't know what happens on the backside, on the back end.
Yeah.
And then that's how that springboarded into the Purple Paisley brunch from Jerome's birthday party.
Wow.
Yeah. So, you never know how things kind of line up in the cosmos.
Sure. Yeah, it grows very organically, right?
Yes, that's exactly how it happened.
That's great. Tonya, talk a little bit, if you can, about your affection for Prince and your admiration for Prince.
Okay.
And in terms of then how it branched out into, the overarching Minneapolis sound.
Okay.
Hmm.
I was actually a fan of his when I first heard "I Want to Be Your Lover"
Mhm.
in 1970. I was 7 years old. And I'm like, who is this girl singing? I like this song. And then I got my copy Right On magazine. Shout out to Cynthia Horner, the legend herself.
Yep.
And then it was a picture of him on the front. I said, that ain't no girl. That's a man with nice hair. Because, his hair was everything. That hair was just
Right.
in the wind. Loved it. And after that, came, I liked that song. And then, I didn't buy any of the albums, honestly, until Purple Rain. And that the summer of 84, oh my God, that's 40 years ago. Wow. That was a definitely a game changer for me, because I was just starting high school.
Mhm.
Yep.
And I was down south for the summer. So I bought the Purple Rain album. I went to see the movie in Birmingham. And it was just a game changer. And listening, what really got me with the Purple Rain album, because I got the 45, hence the adapter,
Yep.
the 45 of When Doves Cry.
Huh.
But what really locked me in was 17 Days.
15 days, the flip side.
Okay.
That's what locked me in. And because when back in the day, you didn't have a B-side that was not on the album.
Right.
Yeah.
So this concept of having a B-side that's not on the album, so that really means you really have to buy the single or the 12-inch in order to hear this song.
Mhm.
And to me, I was like, that's brilliant. And that made me do a deep dive back into the other albums. So from there, I bought 1999 and
Mhm.
all the other stuff. I didn't buy Dirty Mind, because at that time, when Dirty Mind came out, I was like, "Oh, this is nasty." I was a kid. I
Right.
was like, "This nasty. I ain't listening to this." But yet, my father bought Rick James street songs for me.
There you go.
He didn't know about Rick James, but that was the first album that I ever got, was Street Songs by Rick James. That's another story.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. But the fact that the B-side thing, I think, was what sold me. And then after that, after the 17, after what was it, When Doves Cry was Let's Go Crazy with Erotic City.
City,
Mhm.
right.
And I had the 12-inch of that. And I was like, 12-inch, the long version. Like, oh my God, my nose is wide open right now. And then I Would Die for You, which had Another Lonely Christmas.
Mhm.
So I was, yeah, I'm all in. I'm all in. And ever since then, I've just been all in, good, bad, or indifferent. That, people, it's amazing what you can remember with a song,
Mhm.
what you were doing when you first heard a
Or-
specific song.
Sure.
And he's really been a major part of my life. And then when I met people who actually liked him as well, they weren't, let me say this. There are levels to Princeton.
Hmm.
There are levels to Princeton.
Mhm.
You have those that say, "Oh, I love Prince. He's great." I'm like, "Oh, really? What's your favorite song?" "Oh, Purple Rain. Womp, 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 womp." Like, oh, okay. And then you have those who are, "Well, what's your favorite Prince song?" "Oh, Soul Psychedelic Side," or Adonis and Bathsheba. There's like,
If you know,
okay.
you know, right?
Now you're cooking. Now you're cooking. So, I hate to see when there are people, and I must admit, I am somewhat of a Prince snob. I am. I own it. I'm not as bad as others, but yeah, I can be a Prince snob. And when people say, "Oh, I was there when he sneezed at First Avenue, and the when he sneezed, it rained all over my face," and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, you're doing too much, honey.
Right.
You're doing way too much." That's when it's like, "Okay, honey, you've gone a little bit too far."
Right. Right.
But his music, his lyrics, his musicianship,
Yep.
those things so have contributed to my life's soundtrack.
Mhm.
And to be able to have grown up during a time where he was here and to experience all this music, even the music that people will probably never hear, but to experience all of that is truly one of life's blessings for me personally.
Absolutely.
So that's how I feel.
Could you have imagined? Because I'm struck by this as well. I remember, and I actually think I said this to Jelly Bean once. We bought the albums. We became admirers. We not fanatics, but became admirers. We supported the artists.
Yeah, and I don't mean to cut you off. That's a big deal for you to say not fans, but admirers. Because I have friends or so-called friends or associates who will say, "Oh, you're obsessed with him." They swear up and down that I'm obsessed with everything that he does. No, I love the music.
Yes.
I'm a big admirer. There's a difference between being totally obsessed
And fanatical.
and
Yeah.
fanatical. Exactly. And that's because you don't necessarily like, or you don't really understand the level of musicianship. You don't understand the level of the fashions that he's done. You don't understand the brilliance of him making 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different groups.
Mhm.
You don't
Yep.
understand the brilliance of him having, excuse my language, can I curse on here?
Yes, you can.
Yeah. Yeah.
You don't understand him having a shitload of music in the vault that for the next maybe 100 years, if the estate will release an album, it will go on for generations and generations. So you don't understand that. And sometimes you have to really reel yourself in because you don't want it to be a thing where you start arguing. Then it's like, okay, now you're really starting to sound obsessive.
Right. Right.
But people don't understand that. And at that point, I'm just like, okay, if that's what you think, that's what you think. I'm not going to go back and forth with you about it. You think that way, but I know how I feel, and that's all that matters. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No worries.
Tonya, I was just going to say, the manager I currently work with at this fine wine and good spirits shop, when I asked, she's a Prince fan, and when I asked her what her favorite cut was, without flinching, she said Ballad of Dorothy Parker, and I looked at her and I said, "Oh, we can work together, absolutely."
Keep it real, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
She without flinching, she didn't just go, "Oh well." No. She knew her favorite thing, and she says because it tells a story. I was like, "Oh, okay, we're gonna get along just fine."
We're good. I am a school teacher on the side, and there was an 8th grader. She just graduated. She's a Prince fan, and when she first came in, I said, "Oh, that's cute." She's like, "Oh," because she saw my I think I have a symbol necklace with 319 on it. And she's like, "Oh, you like Prince? I like Prince too." And you know me, I'm like, "Oh, how cute.
Yeah.
What's your favorite song?" "Oh, it's gonna be When Doves Cry." She said, "My favorite song is Insatiable." I said,
Oh,
"What?"
Okay.
I said, "Okay." So now I'm gonna pull you into the purple realm.
right.
because now, okay, your mama taught you well.
Right, right.
Yep.
Mama taught you well. So yeah, it's always good when people they get you.
Mhm, mhm.
They get you.
Tanya, so how is it? Because I think this about myself, the associations and coming up, learning, listening to the music, learning the music, becoming an admirer. I was fortunate enough to meet Prince, and obviously, the relationships that we've built with people that are celebrities and people that are not celebrities. What is it like for you now? Like, so for instance, when you were out in LA, okay, for that the 40th anniversary of Purple Rain, and you're there, and Jill Jones is there, and Jerome is there, and I know you know Jerome very, very well. But I mean, what is that like for you coming from, first hearing "I Want to Be Your Lover" to then actually interacting and being in those types of environments? Can you talk a little bit about how you feel?
I try to, again, I try to remain cool and collected. You're coming up and you're seeing Joan, Jill and I call it Joan. Jonesy and I are good friends. To see her, to see and Catherine, Andre Simone, to see Cleet, well, I call him, that's my name from Cleet, see Jerome, and to see all these people who have contributed to the fabric again of my life soundtrack. It can be a little overwhelming, and I have to sit back and just soak it all in. I remember when I was at the in LA, everybody was in the green room, and I'm just sitting there and I'm just like, wow, this is heavy.
Mhm.
This is really heavy. And you when you see that you've become, and I hate the word insider. I don't like that, because like, what are you inside of?
Mhm.
I don't
Right.
like that. But when you begin to establish relationships
Hmm.
with all of these people, it's like, damn, this is a good thing. This is a really good thing. And you know that you can talk to them and not have to put on pretenses. And that, for me, which is key, they don't have to put on a pretense.
Hmm.
They can be themselves. And for me, that shows to me that I know what I'm doing. I know that they can trust me, because with them, because it's such a closed environment with them, that they can feel they're able to talk freely amongst themselves and not have to worry about, oh, she's going to go back and say, oh, well, I had pizza with pork on it and people think I don't eat pork, that kind of thing.
Right.
And it's, to me, it's almost like an honor, a badge of merit,
Mhm.
because they look at me and say, oh, tea's coming, all right, fine, and we'll just sit and cut up, and they swap. I always say telling lies, but they're swapping stories, and you're just listening, and you're just in the
Hmm.
mix. I have a joke. I joke with a friend of mine. I say that it's like being in the olden days when you're standing by the curtain while the heads of state talk, and you're just standing there like, okay, I ain't gonna say nothing. I'm just gonna sit back and I'm gonna mind my business and drink my water. And that's what that's kind of, for me, that's a modern day me sitting back, minding my business and drinking my water. And they know that I'm not gonna go and say anything that was discussed in their company.
Sure.
So I'm thankful and I'm extremely appreciative that they consider me that person. It's
I,
it's
I,
it's
I kind of saw that level of trust and that level of appreciation at the event at the cutting room for Jelly Bean, when you gave Jelly Bean his flowers from the stage, and then he sat out in the audience while they did the tribute to the songs that he either wrote or produced, and the gratitude that was coming off of him. Because I know that was not scripted, that was unexpected, right? And
Oh, yes.
he said the way he sat down and the way he was just vibing with the audience, and it meant something to him. Yeah,
Yes.
I could tell.
Yes.
It was
It,
it was
it,
it,
it
it was
almost
emotional.
makes me, it almost makes me a little emotional, because, and I've never told Uncle Bean this, but even back in the day, I had a little crush on him. during the Purple Rain era. I never said this out loud. So Uncle Bean, if you watch this, now you know I used to have a slight crush on you. But it was important to me because I think Jelly Bean Johnson is one of the most underrated
Mm.
and unsung musicians of the Minneapolis era and the Minneapolis sound.
Sure.
I really want him to be able to not only to get his flowers, but to receive. I want him to receive his flowers because there's a difference between getting them and receiving. I want him to receive the fact that he is who he is.
He is.
Mm.
And that's why I did. That's why I did that. That's why I did that. And, you know, just like, again, Bean is come to my house and had dinner. And yes, he loves my mac and cheese. He said it's restaurant worthy. Yes. So
There's a
yes,
shout out.
my mac and cheese is legendary. Yes, it is. But you know, the fact that he can come here and just chill. Same thing with Eddie. Eddie M. That's my big brother.
Mhm.
Those are my guys. If there's anything that I need, or we just get in a we just have a group chat and we're just chopping it up. Just chopping it up. Those two guys are they're like my family. And you know, and Bean calls me Niecy because I call him Uncle Bean. That's my name. He calls me Niecy. And I just wish that more people knew the type of person that he is.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
I wish that, and that's why I did what I did at the cutting room, because people don't realize he's put out some bangers.
Absolutely.
Put out some bangers. And the fact that he is who he is, but still maintains that modesty,
Yep.
you know.
Let's talk about criticize.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Black Cat.
And else to talk about. Is that song the only one you sing? Yeah, those two.
I mean,
and I actually, Black Cat, no bullshit. Black Cat is my favorite song off of Rhythm Nation.
sure.
That and The Knowledge, those two are my favorite songs.
Okay.
Yeah. And people don't, and this is another hidden fact. I love rock music. I love rock music if it makes sense.
Mhm.
Anything like with the rock guitar edge, I love that. So yeah, Black Cat, yeah, that song bops.
Nice. That did it, right?
Yeah, that bops.
I was at the opening show for the Rhythm Nation tour, so I can tell you.
Were you?
Yes, ma'am. In Miami. They had technical difficulties with the production, so they had to shut things down for 20 minutes because they were having issues with her, I don't know, whatever the hell. They showed Disney cartoons on the big screens while they were fixing them.
Wow.
Yeah, oh yeah. That's a whole other story.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Chucky Booker was the musical director and the opening act.
Oh, Chucky, yes. And you know, and I hope I'm not telling any, well, they already know. You know, Eddie M is working with Chucky Booker.
Cool.
Yeah, he's in Chucky's band.
Okay.
Yeah, they just did a show a few months ago in Oakland at Yoshi's.
Shit, come over to the East Coast, y'all. Come on.
I'm trying. I've
I
been trying
know.
for the past year to have him come here.
Wow. Because I've seen Chucky a few times with Lionel, obviously. But that would be banging. And I actually met Eddie M the first time at the cutting room.
Right.
Show. And that was a little bit of a fanboy for me because obviously, you know, back in the day. And I will say about Eddie M, it was like we had known each other all our lives. We had interacted on social media, and then he comes in the room, comes over, gives me a big hug. How you doing? He said to me, "It's nice to finally meet you." I'm like, who?
Yes, and that is one thing. Since we're talking about a brief love fest, Eddie is one of the most down to earth people I've ever met.
Yep.
He does not waver. He does not change. He is always going to be who he is, and that is the one thing I love about him. And he's always has a smile on his face. He's always ready to meet people. And I'm gonna tell you, I had a little fangirl moment myself at the Nothing Compares to P event because that was my first time meeting him. So I said, Eddie, if you would indulge me for just this one moment, I started doing the choreography for The Glamorous Life and singing. He started playing. So, you
There's
know,
memory, right?
but this was backstage. So
Yeah.
yeah, I had my little fangirl moment because it was, I'm not gonna let that pass. Just like Kurt joked me about Martin Kimber.
Yes. I
He
was
wasn't.
just going to bring that up. You got Martin to sing a little bit of when he was in Color Me Bad, Sex You Up, and he did
Yes,
it without flinching. You know.
yeah, yeah, and that was just off the cuff.
Yes,
That
it
was really
was.
off the cuff. So I said, okay, if he gonna rock with, let me continue. And I was in tune too. Shoot.
Oh, he
That's
was. Let me tell you, Tonya. I remember that set that he did for Nothing Compares to P, and all shout outs in the world to Martin Kember because the guy can sing his ass off.
oh yes, Martin is nice with it.
He closed his set with The Beautiful Ones. Now that takes a brass set of balls.
Yeah,
I don't care who you are, opening, middle, closing. You closed your set with The Beautiful Ones, and he brought it. I mean,
yeah. Yeah, Martin is nice with it. All those musicians are really, they are skilled. They've been in the business for 99 years,
yeah,
so they know what they're doing.
yeah,
What they're doing. Shout out to Martin Kimber.
yes,
You need to come to New York too, hon.
Right.
for real.
Y'all gonna
East
have me
Coast
working.
love.
Y'all gonna have me working now. Child, I don't know if I'm ready for it. I'm still recovering. So, but we'll see. You never know. You never
Right.
know.
Tanya, can you talk a bit about obviously with your love of fashion, and I mean, we see it in the way you're put together, we see it in the shows that you do, and obviously in your life and in your career. Can you talk about fashion and how, I know that you were the beauty director of the Full Figured Fashion Week, and kind of how that comes about and how that practically applies to what you're doing in your career?
Okay, so long story short, I was living in Virginia. I attended college, Norfolk State. Shout out, behold the green and gold. And I moved back here in 95, December of 95. And I was just trying to figure out, I knew I wanted to do something in entertainment. Fashion was not necessarily my thing, what I wanted to do. I always wanted to be in music because I wanted to be a singer. When I was younger, I wanted to be a
Hmm,
singer. I went to the High School of Music and Art, the
hmm,
famed. So
Mhm.
that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to sing. And then, of course, when I got in there and I heard the Tashina Arnolds and, all those people who can sing, the Anaya Days and all these people, I'm like, well, maybe I need to pivot a bit because I don't have those kind of vocals. I could if I really put my mind to it. Like, I don't know if I have that. So then I've always music and art, um, back in the 80s, the fashion was anything goes. I swear to God, there was a girl in my class. Her name was Elizabeth Taylor. We used to laugh about her. It was
wow.
Elizabeth Taylor, a Black girl. She wore a buzz cut mohawk. She had an earring with the chain from her nose to her hand. No, I'm sorry, from her nose to her ear. And she was dressed in punk. And me coming from a private school existence, I was like, what in the world? But then I said, these are my people. I like this. And, I was into that Madonna phase. My
Hmm,
ex-cousins would joke me about wearing the lace gloves. I had the lace gloves. I had the pearl necklace going. And so it was always, you tried to be, you tried to stay within the moment with the
hmm,
fashions. I never had a Michael Jackson jacket like Thriller. Never had that. Um, but and then of course the B-boys with their, not well, remember the song back in the day when people wore Lees, shout, shout, Lees are played out.
Yep.
So then they would be wearing Levi's and the British Walkers and the Kangol. So there was style all around in some form of fashion. And it just kind of evolved for me when I got back here. And my intent was never to be a model. I didn't think I had what it takes. Everybody's like, oh, you're so statuesque. You should do it. And I'm like, I'm not doing this. But then I happened to meet someone who wanted me to go to this, it was like a training program, but I was going as his model because I was doing a makeup class. And then I met the director of it, Gwen DeVoe. And she's like, you know what? I'm going to have fun with you. And I'm like, what you talking about? She said, come take the classes. I said, all right. And when I went to the classes, and I was not good at all because I didn't know, modeling. Yeah. And then I started practicing. And I started practicing my runway. And the next time when I came back, she was like, wow. And then I started doing shows. That's how I started modeling in the plus community. And doing that, it kind of boosted it. It boosted my self-esteem. Mind you, I was almost 30 by then. But being a plus size girl, looking back, I was not that big. I was not that plus size. But back then, people were like, oh, you're a big girl, yada, yada, yada. But being involved in modeling, meeting like-minded women who were modeling as well, that really boosted my self-esteem. And it really changed pretty much the trajectory of, my life and who I am today. And with that being said, and with that happening, from doing the Plus Academy, Gwen had the vision to create a fashion week because there was no fashion week for plus size women. We went to a fashion week event, and she said, you know what? I'm going to put together a fashion week for plus sizes. Call it Full Figured Fashion. Said, okay, go for it. And, the pieces started coming together. Our first show, the first ever Full Figured Fashion Week here's a little bit of history. And let me know if I'm talking too much.
No,
this is what we live for.
Exactly.
Okay. So, Full Figured Fashion Week, the very first show, June 25th, 2009.
I know where you're going with this. Okay.
Fine. Yep.
And at that time, she was so excited. Oh, I have press coming. This is the first ever full fashion week for full figured women. And for those who don't know about June 25th, 2009, that was the day Farrah Fawcett died. That was the day Ed McMahon died. That was the day Michael Jackson died. So needless to say, the press was like, oh, we got stuff to do. We can't come, but we still pulled it off. We made it happen. Kim Coles of Living Single was the host of our ever Full Figured Fashion Week event. And then it kind of became a mainstay. We did it for 12 years, every year. And it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I kind of stepped back from modeling. I didn't model necessarily for Gwen because she gave me the option. She said, you could either be on the production team or you can model for me. You can't do both. Me thinking, okay, she didn't say I couldn't model for anybody else. I'll do production because, again, Capricorn, money sign, that's where the money is. It's cute to model and stuff. I still love to get on the runway whenever I feel better, but the production is where everything happens. That's where the magic happens. And people don't give producers and production teams their just due because it's so much work that goes into putting on an event, especially of that magnitude. Shoot, of what I do with the music events. And that's something I wasn't planning on doing either.
Right.
But, the beauty director part, I love makeup. I love anything that has to do with makeup and hair and stuff like that. So it was an easy transition for me to be in. And I loved it. The ability to put together a hair team, a makeup team, bring your visions to life. Oh, love. And to see how the girls look when the photos are taken, you could say, I helped create that look.
Right.
That was all me. I love that.
Yep.
Just the creative process is amazing. I love it.
That's great.
Do you have any favorite makeup and hair brands that you can share with us?
Oh gosh, from the pandemic, I've almost lost a little sight of a lot of major brands. I will say though, I love Danessa Myricks. Her her makeup line is wonderful.
Okay.
I like, oh my gosh, even some of the cheaper stuff from the drugstore, like the LA Girl concealers. You can get those in the drugstore for like $5. It doesn't necessarily, for me, makeup doesn't necessarily have to be, there's a makeup line whose foundation, and I know you guys probably aren't into this, but their makeup foundation is $68. I can go to the drugstore and get something that works for me. A Black Opal stick foundation for $12.99.
Mm-hmm.
And it works just as well, if not better. So you can kind of, switch up, kind of like Michelle Obama. She'll go high end with maybe her shoes and then go to Target and pull something from a collection and make it work. And that's really the name of the game, to be able to balance the two.
Nice.
Cool.
Tanya,
I wouldn't know this stuff. I mean, that's why we're asking you. I mean, we're here to learn just as much as anything.
and educate some others at the same time.
Right.
Yes. Oh, don't get me started. That's a whole other show.
No, we can get you started. That's what we're here for.
No. I'm a lady. I'm gonna keep it nice and light.
Can you talk about your affiliation with Black women in media and what that means to you? Because obviously, we love the business side, the entrepreneurial side of you as well. But what does that mean, being a member of Black women in media, and what the organization is trying to do?
Okay, so Black Women in Media was founded in 2014 by Judith St. Jacques. And it's basically an organization that brings together women who are in the industry. So that meaning when you talk about media, you're talking about radio, you're talking about TV, you're talking about film, you're talking about behind the scenes PR, you're talking about management, you're talking about hair and makeup. The ability to bring all these women together to explore different avenues, to do different things, and to honor those who came before us is a major component of that. And just to keep the legacy of the women who were actually we're on their shoulders, to keep it going, and then to bring people in so they can not walk on, but they can, jump on our shoulders so we can carry them, and so on and so on. It's important because as a whole, Black women in the media, we're not really acknowledged or recognized for our endeavors. It's all, unfortunately, we're still in that age where, you have the good old boys. Just look at the film industry. You have these good old boys, or the old guard, as they say, who still are, who have not quite gotten up to speed with with change. Of course, you got the Shonda Rhimes, you got Queen Mother Debbie Allen, you have you have Queen Mother Irene Gandy. If you don't know who Irene Gandy is, please Google her. Irene Gandy is a effing legend and a beast still at the age of 81. She's still out here producing shows and making things happen. These are people that, people like myself aspire to be like. Even as a kid, I was so enamored with Debbie Allen because she was on Fame, she was dancing, she was singing. But what I remember most was the fact that she had switched over to being a director. And I was fascinated by that, like, directing, like, how does that happen? And I kind of started to switch my interest in directing. Like, at one point, I wanted to direct music videos because I always had concepts. I would listen to a song on the radio and I can visualize how this song would play out in a music video. But I was living in Virginia at the time, and I didn't, again, the whole self-esteem thing. I wasn't sure about how I would be received, which leads back to me being shy as a child. But everything turns around when it's supposed to turn around. You know, and now that I've become involved with Black women in media, it is a chance for me to kind of acknowledge those whose shoulders I've been standing on, and a way for me to say thank you to them. And I'm actually working on a couple of events within the organization for that purpose. So, it's almost like a full circle moment for me. Yeah.
That's great. Tonya, this has been a blast. Before we let you go, though,
Absolutely.
I thought we were getting started.
I do have to ask, is there anything that you can talk about that's upcoming? Anything that you would like to mention? I know you've got it's in the fire.
No. I'm just messing with you. I am working on something for next April. I'm not going to reveal it just yet. We're still in the pre-production stages, but I'm telling you, I will make sure you and Kurt will be the first to know.
Exclusive.
Okay.
We love it.
Yes.
Bet.
Exclusive. You have my word on that.
Bet. Double bet.
There we go. Scout's honor, right?
Oh, Witch's honor from Bewitched.
Oh, Bewitched.
Telling my age now.
And listen,
that's okay. We're all in the same group, darling. We're all in the same group.
Yeah. So, let me just ask you guys this. What is your favorite lyric of a Prince song?
Kurt, I'll let you go first.
I would say I will say the most significant song for me is Anesthesia. Because, finding my sexuality at age 18 when that album came out. Have you ever wanted to be with someone so much you take anyone, boy or girl, resonated with me?
Wow, that's heavy. Yeah.
Okay. So I was like, wow, somebody else knows who I am. But what really resonated with me lyric wise, I would say that song, emotionally impacted me. The Love We Make from Emancipation.
Only love there is the love we make.
Right.
Okay.
But that whole lyric, the whole set of lyrics to it, it's just, not knowing that it was about Wendy Melvoin and Susanna Melvoin's brother.
Oh, yeah.
Put down the needle, put down the spoon. Like, who the hell are they talking about? So, but when you later after the fact, when you find out about it, I just find that song in times of crisis the most impactful. One of the most. He's got Colonized Mind is another one.
That's deep.
And how funny that you mentioned that, because I was saying when I do another show, I want the band to do that.
Shh. That's his All Along the Watchtower.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
That is Prince's.
Say that too loud, because the Hendrix disciples might disagree with you.
Well, but we're talking Bob Dylan lyric wise. We're not talking Hendrix. He already can do Hendrix.
Yeah.
We know. But no, if I'm thinking lyrics that inspire me, particularly in this day and age that we live in, Colonized Mind is definitely up there.
Yeah. Yeah. That's the joint.
But I would have to say for me, because and you've met my queen before, so she's my center and my piece. And because throughout the 34 years we've been together, Prince has been a big part of our lives. Okay.
God bless you. 34 years. That's
34 years. Married for 30, but she's still been putting up with me for 34 years. God bless her. So for me, it's Soul Sanctuary. And it's the line, unbothered by the chaos swirling around outside. Because when I'm with her, or when we're in the house or whatever, drama can be happening and things can be going on, but she's my safe space. So whenever I hear that lyric, it brings me right back to her.
Oh,
it's and I can hear it, like it was yesterday. I remember hearing it the first time it came out, on Emancipation, and immediately I started thinking of Robin. We had already been married for, I don't know, 11 years at the time, but it
Right.
just, it was that, it meant that much to me. So for me, that's the one overarching lyric because it just brings me right to her.
Nice. Nice.
Help me out. Who co-wrote that with Prince? Because he didn't write the lyrics alone. That was Sandra St. Victor?
I believe
Right.
so.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Right.
I actually, Sandra St. Victor was at, Tanya, I don't know if you were there, the old Tramps in New York, okay, where the
I
Time used to
remember.
play. The Time
Yes.
played a show, and Johnny Kemp, God rest his soul, was there. He opened up at that show. Sandra St. Victor was there at that show before the Time came on. So I remember it like it was yesterday. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And
That's
it's a funny story. We're talking about shows. The show that you referenced at BB King's with the Time, I was there. I
were
was
you?
at that show. Yep.
And
And
you know what's funny? I met a lot of people that I'm friends with to this day at that show.
at that show,
That's
right?
crazy.
And I ended up backstage at that show too.
You probably saw me.
Right, right, one
Probably
way or
saw me.
another. And it's funny.
Yeah.
Law tells the story, and Love Law, shout out to him. We're gonna have him on as
Mhm.
well. He there was a show that the Time did at Tramps again, and Terry Lewis was there, and Terry and Freeze were playing the double bass. And so, me and my brother were in the audience, and shout out to Joe Kelly, he was with us, I think.
Mhm.
And we were at the show, and Terry Lewis came out. Law made a post about that a couple of years ago, whatever. And I was like, Law, I was there. So
See,
again, that
you
just
never
kind of goes back
know.
to what we were talking about before. You never
Yeah.
know.
It's always, I love the fact that I can, matter of fact, there was someone that I ran into and they say, yeah, I saw you at that show. And I was like, really? Like, was I nice to you? Sometimes you might catch me on a bad day and I'm like,
Yeah.
but you know, I'm like, well, and I try to be nice when I'm out and meeting people because I don't want anyone to feel like like they're weirded out. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? I never want anyone to feel like, oh, this chick, you know. I always want to make sure that everyone is comfortable,
Mhm.
which is why when Kurt talked about nothing compares to P, I'm walking around making sure everybody's okay, entertaining, acknowledging
You.
folks, so on and so forth. And I
Yep.
I enjoy doing that.
And I saw that firsthand. I remember when we had come out to the show last May, in May of 2023, that Eddie was at, and you had brought us up to the meet and greet upstairs at the cutting room, and it was more like a family gathering, right?
Yes,
We all got together, we had our pictures taken, but it wasn't put upon, right? It
right.
wasn't, bring them in, hustle them out, whatever. We came up, we laughed, we talked, we hung out for a while, the show started, and so it really, I got that where you made everybody comfortable, and
Hmm.
it was just a nice event.
Yeah. And that's really, to me, that is key, to make sure everybody is comfortable. And that's all I'm going to say because, after we can have a conversation after this, but
Shh.
it's so important to make people feel special. As a matter of fact, we did the anniversary for Under the Cherry Moon. We did that. That was the 35th. What was that, 2021? We did that. And we had it at a space and it was intimate. And we had Jerome and Emmanuel Saleh, who
Mhm.
never comes out. But we were the first. And that's what I wanted. That's my point. We were the first to do it. And that kind of is another thing for me that sometimes we don't get, my business partner and I don't get the credit that we deserve in putting out these events. Everybody thinks, oh, they're such fly by night things. No, they're not, because like I said before, my job is to kind of make sure, and not kind of, is to make sure that we are, curating these things,
Mhm.
because who knows when they're gone. Case in point, Uncle Wally,
Mm.
he was on that Zoom and he was gone 2 months later.
Mm.
Yeah.
He was gone 2 months later. So, it's important to tell these stories from other people
Mm.
besides, I mean, no shade, no disrespect to anyone, but his best years were not 1984 to 1986.
Right.
Sorry,
Right.
not sorry. There was more to him than those years.
Yep.
And that's what I always I always want to make sure that people understand that.
Mhm.
So,
I mean,
Nice.
his book alone, and talk about the years he worked with George and and
yeah,
Parliament and all that. I mean,
yeah,
he had a huge
Yeah.
existence beyond Prince.
yeah, yeah. And people, especially this next generation. And my I hope I don't get in trouble for saying this. I know I'll hear about it if I do. How much longer can we have the same people telling the same stories?
Right.
We want to, I understand, those who are interested in telling it, feel free to tell the story, but we want to hear from other people who were there as well.
Mhm.
And that's why, I did the things with Tony and Damon and Michael,
Mm.
To let people know, there are other people.
Right. Right.
And I'm not even talking about the color issue. There are just other people who were around in different eras where he was doing different things.
Mm.
He was doing different things. And I'm sorry, I got another question for you. Just popped in my head. All right. So
Please.
we know that they're doing this Prince musical. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, hypothetically speaking, say I decided, okay, I'm going to do a Prince musical, but it's only going to focus on one era of his life.
Mhm.
What era would you like to see?
Kurt, I think I'll go first if that's okay.
I
with
think
you.
the first, please.
For me, it would be the Sign of the Times era.
Mm,
That
okay.
is because for me, Sign of the Times is the masterpiece. Purple Rain, in my opinion, is a fantastic album, beginning to
Right.
end. It is not, in my opinion, Prince's best work. His best work for range of talent, for range of emotion, for range of just breadth of everything he was about is Sign of the Times for me. I would love to see that era focused on because, quite frankly, I don't think it gets its due.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, Kurt, I'm ready.
I always thought Around the World in a Day would make a great musical. Just visually, it has a certain look to it but I would take liberty and use other songs in the 80s canon. Those first 10 years of Prince's career were the most crucial.
Hmm.
I mean, we can talk about all the different things with Warner Brothers in the 90s and, his separation for Warner Brothers Records. And the 90s output is just as important to me, but those
Right.
first 10 years of his career. But I always like the Around the World in a Day album cover just because I think visually it pops.
Right.
And I think for people coming to see a spectacle like a Broadway musical, that
Right.
would that would lend some kind of visual thing to it.
And the funny thing is, I have in my truck, you know how you have the visors to protect from the heat?
Sure.
I have the Around the World in a Day as my visor, the
Cool.
album. So when people are they're like, what is that? Yeah. Open your heart, open your mind.
Mind, right? Absolutely.
I just think that album cover is just brilliant.
And was that Steve Park?
I believe so.
No,
No, that
Steve
wasn't
didn't come on the
Park?
scene till like Love Sexy and Afterwards, Love Sexy tour. He
Oh, I
designed the stage sets for Love
that.
Sexy and Afterwards. We're gonna have him on to talk about that, but
Okay.
my fellow Baltimore boy,
I always thought he did that.
But
no,
I could.
he was not involved in that.
Oh, wow. Now I
Though
got
if he were involved in curating an Around the World Day musical, he'd get that shit lit like the 4th of July.
man,
I love his graphics for Graffiti Bridge. Say what you
Oh,
want.
sure. No, no,
yeah.
no. Prince gave him a pat on the back for that one because he was given a challenge and the challenge was accepted. I mean, to put that together the way he put it. Because
Wow.
Morris wasn't in the artwork originally and all that stuff.
Steve Park. Wow. Now
Yeah.
I have to,
Dear sister, I have to ask you, what
okay.
era you like to see? I'm going to flip
Okay.
it.
Well, okay. So let me go back to the lyric that resonates with me the most. I know I hold you too tight, but I just can't seem to get close enough. I don't smoke, but one night I was listening to that and I said, this mofo is spitting.
Mhm.
Like he is really that to me, it's like, I know I hold you too tight, but I just can't seem to get close enough. That to me is like, you hit it right on the head. You hit it right on the head.
It goes
But
along with that if I was your girlfriend narrative,
yes, yes,
right?
that part, that
Mm-hmm.
part.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as far as the era, I would like to see the Emancipation era.
Okay.
Mm.
Because I want to see, because it was at this time he was married, he was in love, he had, he had a baby on the way. Let's have a baby. I can't wait no more. Let's have a baby. I would love to see that and how that whole narrative of him breaking the chains, if you will, and not being a slave to the label,
Mm.
and the music that came from that. I would like to
Mm.
see it. And then for them to do, but it has the person who does the love we make, they have to bring it.
Right. Right. Because you
Yep.
can't fake that. You cannot fake that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Steve
great.
Park did the artwork for that, by the way, so he definitely
Yes.
would be involved in that one.
Okay.
I hope.
Yeah.
I hope.
Yeah. Oh, he'd be the first to be like in line for that shit. Believe me.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
great.
They
So,
deserve that.
I have the tour program from that tour too.
Yeah.
The
Wow.
playroom and all. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Jam of the Year tour.
Oh God.
Right.
I think I was four or five times on that tour. Every
Wow.
time he was around, I went to New York, I went to the Oakdale in Connecticut, I went to Core States Arena in Philly.
Here's
to
a
see
little
that
known
show.
fact about me. And then you guys can feel free to end on this note. I've only seen him in concert 3 times.
Oh, okay.
I've only
The
seen him one
first
more than you.
The first time was at the Garden that night he threw Kim Kardashian off the stage.
I was there
Oh,
too.
shit.
I was there. Yep.
That was the first time I saw him in concert.
Was CeeLo Green on that tour too? Was CeeLo
Yes.
Green on that show too?
Yes.
Okay.
He was. And
Fantastic.
on the teleprompter when he did fuck you, it kept saying no F-bomb, no
Right.
F-bomb. It kept lighting up on the teleprompter. That's why I said, I'm gonna let you guys sing it. And everybody was singing it instead of him.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I actually I had amazing seats. I sat a couple of rows behind Chris Rock and his ex-wife.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And I went by myself. I met up with some of the fellow Prince fans, but I bought a ticket
Sure.
by myself.
Mm-hmm.
Was
Yeah.
Darlene Niecy there by any chance?
I don't even remember.
Yeah, that's okay.
I was so caught up in watching everything
Sure.
and just the whole visual, and it was just,
Yeah.
that was
I
a
mean,
good show.
it was amazing. And that was actually I saw him live 35 times, I think, from
Shit.
85 to 13. And that was the last time that Robin and I went together, because when I saw him for the final time at the Mohegan Sun Arena.
I was there.
You got Mohegan in
I was
2013?
there.
Which night
Yes.
did you go? Because I went Friday night.
I was here Friday.
Okay, there we go. Yep.
Yeah, I was there Friday.
The show was great. And my brother and I had gone. We got our tickets comped, so we were like right near the stage. And
Wow.
that was the last time I saw him. That Garden show was the last time I was with Robin. And obviously, I loved going to the shows with Robin. We loved going to the time. But
Right.
that was the last time that she had seen him live. And
Wow.
the thing that stood out to me about that Garden show, I'll never forget, was when all the house lights came on, he was still singing when he was doing Cool. And I had seen Prince do Cool, but I love the song. And I just remember looking, 20,000 people, right? Just, I mean, all vibing, having a great time. And there's always like one moment during a Prince concert when the lights come up and I'm looking, and it didn't matter. You got the bikers over here, you got the motorheads over here, you got the B-boys over here, the brothers over there, right? And the thing I was never lost on me was just the diversity that was at the show.
Always.
It didn't matter if it was the 80s, 70s, or right up until the time he passed, it didn't matter who you were. You were welcome, you had a voice, and you were at the show.
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. And that last show, that was the last show I saw him at Mohegan Sun.
Wow.
I remember telling my friend, I said, he doesn't look like himself.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't look like himself. I said he looks like he's tired, or he's just a little run down. I remember telling them that. And it didn't seem, he put on a good show because Janelle Monáe was his opening act.
Mm.
And but it didn't, for me, it wasn't like the show at the Garden.
Right.
To me, it felt more like a review.
And I feel the same way. The only time I truly, and I said this to my brother who was with me, the only time I truly felt comfortable was when he did the rock block, like in the middle, when he did Let's
Yeah.
Go Crazy, She's Always in My Hair, Something in the Water, then that was Prince. But I felt the exact same way. I'm like, something's just a little different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm.
So, Tonya, it's been an absolute blast for us.
Thank you so much.
You
I
for
had a
coming on.
ball.
This is great. Kurt, I'm going to let you go, and then I'll take
Thanks
us
for
out.
making my Friday. No, we got to have some. You requested some music, so we got to.
Ah, yeah.
Next year, it's 40 years old too.
I know. Stay tuned. I'm gonna say.
If you like what you hear, please hit the like button and subscribe down below.
Yes.
For more information on Tonya, we will have those links up and ready. And Tonya, is there anywhere people can reach you that you would like them to reach you?
You can reach me at 777-93-11. I'm just kidding. My social media on Facebook, my Instagram, it's such a long name, Brooklyn Girl 42533. Those are really the only two that I generally go through. My Facebook, which is my name, and Instagram. I'm old. I don't have time to do all the other stuff.
No, that's all right. We appreciate that.
Just too much. And my website is coming soon. So I'm going to I actually have a couple of projects coming up that is a little bit of a departure from the things that I've been doing.
We'll have to make that part of part 2.
Uh-oh, let me find out y'all want to do a part 2 on little old me.
All right, come on.
Right.
You already had some stuff up in the works and stuff like that. We're going to have you back on. Come on now, you already know that.
Okay, all right then. Well, I'll hold you to it.
That we're gonna be held.
Okay.
We like to be held.
Oh. Brother Silver said, I only like to be held by my queen, honey. I don't want no smoke.
He ain't no Gemini.
That's on y'all.
All right, if you like what you hear and you see, you already heard me say those directions below. Jay, take us out.
Yes, thank you, Tonya, once again. Thank you all for tuning in and checking out the Electric Vibe. And remember, when the universe comes knocking, you have to answer that door. Peace. Amen.